We got to a stage where everything just went nuts, economically speaking. And they
unpegged off the gold value, the gold standard?
The gold. So it started as sort of a temporary measure in the early 1900s, maybe 1940s or something. And then with in 1973 or 4, I think it was Nixon, that then officially unpegged the gold standard. And it was completely abolished. And at that point, you literally have a piece of paper or a number, a digit on the screen that has value because you believe it has value. You can't, you can buy goods with it because everyone is, you believe in the strength of the dollar, which is the strength of the issuing government. So of course, as long as the United States is strong and the government is strong, which they are, then of course you can trust in the value of that currency. But the fact that the currency is now just being printed whenever they want to without any sort of real economic control measures. They say there are lots, quantitative easing and quantitative tightening and all of that stuff, issuing of bonds and treasuries and all that. There's a lot of complicated things that make it look like this is the right thing to do. But the governments know it's out of control. The head of Federal Reserve knows it's out of control. I mean, you can go back to several of the heads of the Federal Reserve from Greenspan and even before, and you can look back at many, many different documentaries of presidents that have all said, we are printing these currencies into nothing.
Yeah.
And it's, like I said, we saw the accelerated version in a country like Lebanon, where the Lebanese lira went from $1 was equivalent to 1,500 Lebanese lira, which already sounds crazy, right?
Yes.
But we went from $1 to 1,500 Lebanese pounds to $1 now being close to 100,000 Lebanese pounds.
Same thing was what happened with the Zimbabwean dollar. It sounds... It
just and in a lot of countries in South America
nothing.
And stuff like that. So it is happening. We see it.
Yeah.
And it's, like I said, it's the same thing happening with our currencies, only they're backed by stronger governments, stronger, things. But the fact that it's being diluted and the fact that it is visible in everyone's, day to day, you can look back to the value of your house. Just take 50 years. It was less than, you're not talking about a house that was sort of 100,000 and 50 years later it's 150,000 or 130,000, which would kind of, then if they're talking about rate of inflation at 1% or something, that makes sense. But, if a house goes from like 50,000 to 500,000 in 20 or 30 years, I mean, the rate of inflation to get to that, it just shows that the currency has lost such a large amount of value. And
that makes a lot of sense. And you reminded me of a conversation that I was actually having with my son very recently, about a week ago. And that reminded me of a conversation that I also had with my dad. And we were talking about, so I was talking with my son about the cost of food at the tuck shop that are, in the high school.
And we start to sound like our dads now.
We start to sound like our dads, right? I would back then, and I remember every day at our tuck shop, delicious food that we had in South Africa, right? And we used to have a different meal for the day. So, whatever it was, Monday was hot dogs, Tuesday was this thing called Vet Cook, which is like a mince thing. Wednesdays was hamburgers, Thursdays was chicken mayonnaise, whatever. And that, the cost back then was around R2.50, right? And now we also bring in another dynamic here is the exchange rate of different currencies.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Because back then, the rand was a lot stronger against the dollar back then.
Yeah.
So it's even a bigger, jump. So it was R2.50 back then. And I remember the conversation that I was having with my dad, and he'd tell me, I used to buy sandwiches for 20 cents.
Yeah.
And I couldn't, I was like,
your head around that.
What?
Yeah.
That seems just so cheap. And now...
And you're talking about a 20, 30 year difference.
There was back then was 20, 30 years.
Or more increase.
Exactly. And now it's happened again because I'm speaking to my son and he tells me, what does it cost to buy a sandwich or whatever? I was asking, we're having this conversation and it was whatever, €3. Yeah, but R2.50 is 15 cents. What is it? 12 cents. It's 12 euro cents for a hamburger, you know? And we're having that same conversation. Yeah. And at the end of the day, is all that you've explained, which you explained amazingly well, is the mechanism that it's a tool. Money's a tool at the end of the day. And it is only as valuable as the people that are willing to accept that method of payment, right?
Yeah.
And
the strength of the issuer, the government, or the thing.
Yeah. So, if you're willing to accept dollars and I've got a service or product to give you, or I'm willing to accept dollars, as long as dollars as a store of value is acceptable between you and me, that I know I can use further on. That's what makes us strong.
Mechanism of exchange.
Mechanism of exchange. How am I going to get the things? As opposed to what's the word? Bartering.
Yeah.
So as opposed to bartering, where it's fixed, it's very rigid. Money adds that fluidity, but it's only as strong as the people that are accepting it. Thank you for watching that short. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to watch the full episode, it's available over here. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell icon to get notified when we upload new content, and follow us on Spotify. It helps the algorithm.